Hello and welcome to the Transformational Speakers Podcast. This is episode 6, and I am super excited to bring to you my very first interview with an amazing man that I got to meet about a year and a half ago at World's Greatest Speaking Training. And then we got to spend more time this last July, or was that June? Oh, what was it? February? At Roger Love's event. And so I'm super excited that Billy agreed to come here. So let's get into the interview today. Billy Mandrino lives in Santa Barbara, California with his wonderful wife and their incredible daughter. He claims that he fell in love with his wife and Santa Barbara at the same time, in this magical city that brought them together more than 25 years ago. He is recently a published author of The NOWist, Finding the Science to Your Ultimate Desires in No Time. This book lights the way for the reader to fully commit to the present moment and learn the deep truths therein. The inspiration and the truth Billy presents in The NOWist is a life-changing creation, not only for the author, but more importantly, the readers and the souls he's here to serve. With a spiritual hunger that is never quenched, Billy dives deep into the essence of us all. He takes the commonplace and makes it real. He has a presence that is felt in his writing and penetrates even deeper in person. Most of his life people are drawn to him for advice and direction in all areas of his life. It is incessant of his service to others and has recognized that the inspiration to write The NOWist is his highest calling. He feels uniquely blessed to share his light with millions around the globe. And I am super excited because when we met, I knew that you were a soul brother of mine. You were someone that we deeply connected instantly. And I was like, wait, you're coming out with a book? When does it come out? And we were so excited about it. And then months later to get it in the mail, I was so excited and proud simultaneously. And I'm just so grateful that you have agreed to be here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin. I am inspired by you, my friend. You have a presence and a power that is changing the world. You're helping people find their voice, helping them get their voice out to people in a bigger way. And I was just so touched with you and Carlos. You remember that? We were in that lobby area of Roger Love's event, I think, and we just had this I think we were there for like 2 hours.
Right?
You and I and Carlos were just like vibing and connecting. I knew synchronicity and the universe was kind of conspiring to put us together so we could, bring this energy up in the world. And that's what you're doing. And that's what I'm about. So I'm inspired. I'm not surprised at all when I connect with somebody like you or like Carlos or Marianne Williamson, who I literally got to connect with a couple nights ago and talk and have a conversation with her, gave her a copy of the book. When I connect with people, I'm never surprised, because when you live in the present moment, when you live out of time, you're not surprised when synchronicities show up. You almost can anticipate them. And that's what this interview with you, I feel, is about. I knew it was destined. I knew it was going to happen. Like I did one with Carlos Segura. He has a book out, and we did an interview together. And I just felt how perfect it is that you reached out to me. And of course, I'm going to do a podcast with Erin. I love Erin, and I love what you're doing, what you're about. So thank you for having me on your beautiful show.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I love people who are changing the world. I mean, one of the reason I get out of bed is not to just be a speaking coach. It is, how many people can we serve? How big of the shift in the planet can we have? And I know it's not just my voice. I know I need to help other people get their voices out so that we can make a huge dent and shift the paradigms of what's happening in the world, especially now more than ever.
Yes.
So one of the things I loved about your talk on the World's Greatest Speaking Stage was your story about track. Could you share a little bit with us about your journey from where you were to where you are now?
Of course, that story. Yes. A lot of folks have come up to me and said, wow, I was an athlete, or I've had a near-death experience in sports, and it changed my life. So when I was 19 years old, a traumatic event changed my life. And I was a high school track star. I had got second my junior year in state in Seattle, in your area. I was I'm from Spokane, Washington. So all you local, you live in Seattle, correct?
Yeah, but I'm actually from Sandpoint, Idaho.
No way, see?
I didn't even know that.
My uncle had a house on Bottle Bay when I was living in Spokane, which I know you know that area.
Yeah, it's right. It's like 10 minutes from my mom's house.
Yeah, so there you go. Even see 1 degree of separation when you're connected with people, or just right there. So I was from Spokane. I was going to Cheney High School, actually. So I got second in Tacoma at the state meet my junior year. And the next year, I was an athlete in basketball, football. The track was my love and my real talent. And I figured I can get, a scholarship if I can do well my senior year, because San Diego State University was looking at me now. And I had all these opportunities because of almost winning my junior year. And being from 6 kids, big family, beautiful family, big Italian family, 4 girls and 2 boys, it was financially challenging to get that many kids to college. So we were kind of on our own. So there was a big setup for me thinking, I was going to be an audio engineer. San Diego State had this program. I thought, perfect. I'm going to win my senior track meet, and I'm going to get signed up with San Diego State, and my future is set. I have no worries. So I didn't play basketball that winter. I went indoor to Eastern Washington University, and I competed in some indoor meets, and I was training and skip basketball because I really wanted to win state. The media was involved. My family was all going to be there, and I knew it was a pivotal point in my life. So long story short, I compete a couple of months prior to my senior event there in Tacoma and senior state meet. And I was in the Kibbe Dome in Idaho, and the bar was set to 15 feet. And sorry, my phone. The bar was set to 15 feet. And I was, it was a PR. It was going to be a PR for me, a personal record. So I remember the energy burst that I had in that moment and how it was completely just something beyond me, otherworldly, this adrenaline, endorphin. I know athletes understand what I'm talking about. You get this rush right before it's almost like a precognition or a pretense before the big event. So I had more speed. And so I planted my pole, and I swung upside down and backwards, and then bam, my pole breaks. My head hits the back of the box. My left arm is shredded, and I'm laying on the track, and I can't see. Like, I'm on the track, and I think either I'm dying or I just went blind. I had some head trauma, and I thought, oh my God, like, this is it. Like, I'm done. Something broke inside me, and I thought I was dying. So eventually the stars kind of show up, and my vision comes back. And that was 2 months prior to my track meet. And before I even stood up, I remember thinking, oh crap, I got to compete in 2 months at the highest level to make my dreams come true. And fast forward to those 2 months when I'm standing on that runway, all my family's there. The press has done so much media on me, excited, for this kid from Cheney, Washington. He's going to win the state track meet. He can shoot for, he almost, they knew what happened in Tacoma, and it became this big pressure on me, and fear became a huge player in my life, and it really took me over. So, previous to that senior track meet, I was training indoors, and I couldn't leave the ground. I was so afraid of dying and so afraid of failure that I wouldn't even attempt success. I wouldn't even attempt it, because I thought, obviously now pole vaulting at that level meant like I could die again. And the fear just took me over. And so my coaches, sports psychologists, everybody's working with me because I knew how important this was to my team to compete in state, and for my future, and just for everything that I was about and everything I put my whole, life's work to at that point as an athlete and as a potential college athlete. So I never left the ground. So I ended up showing up. I already qualified for state, so I was going no matter what, because I won district. I had set a school record. All this hype was there. And I'm standing on the track runway, and I'm looking at my dad and all my family in the stands. My dad had driven from, rented a hotel, and one of those huge VHS cameras that had that massive tape that goes onto it. Remember those huge things there? And there's a cigarette shoulder. So he had one of those. He's in the stands. I remember the first attempt, I looked up at him and thought, man, I can't let him down. I mean, he just spent a lot of money, and his life is just wrapped up in me competing. And I just felt like I wasn't doing it for me. It was a bigger reason. I had a bigger why. And I figured that's what's going to pull me through. That's what's going to help me this one time, at least make a qualifying height. So I was on the runway, I ran as fast as I could. I planted my pole, and I ran right to the mat. It's called a scratch. It's a no attempt. So then I kind of glanced back up to the stand, see my dad, my brother, my friends, my family, and they all kind of have their hearts. You can just, like this big exhalation. So I go back to the runway, and I look at him one last time, and I just go, and I run through again. I scratch. And then the final attempt, you get 3 attempts. I remember I was mad. I wasn't inspired anymore. There was nothing but anger and like just freaking over the fact that this fear just been this huge, like wet blanket that was just holding me down. And I just said, screw it. I'm just going to go. I'm no matter what, I'm leaving the ground. I don't care. I'm just going to make an attempt. So I ran with everything I had, and I planted that pole, and I literally let go of the pole, walked off the mat, and then walked out of the stadium and sat under a street light for about 4 hours and had my hand in my head and just cried and just literally was crushed and broken and thought that life was over. And from there, that pain and that fear stayed with me for years. Affected so many areas of my life. And that's where we are today, is not living in the past. That's where we are right now. It's like, this book teaches you how to get past those type of fears, those type of traumas in your life, how to really shift your awareness into the present moment, how to get connected to linear time that pulls us down, but really how to find out how to connect to divine time while you're in linear time. And if you look at the cover of my book, that is the power of the present moment awareness that you can gain when you breathe and connect yourself to this moment with your imagination. And that's ultimately what shifted me out of that fear, out of that tragedy, out of that devastation. And that's what I want to share with millions of people. Thank you for that wonderful intro, because it really spoke to my heart and what I'm about and my great purpose and dharma in this world, to help people get beyond their past and not so focused on their future, but use the energy of this present moment to change your life.
Yeah, I think, the analogy of you running is kind of like when we were about to ready to launch off our business, right?
Yes. Yep.
I had an experience where I was at a zip line, and I had just, my bosses, I was still working in corporate America, and I had heard that, we couldn't take any leave without pay. And I was going to women's leadership. I had 7 days, but I needed 2 days of leave without pay. And I was like, I have to go to this. This is where I'm going. I already have it booked. I'm going. And you have to decide that it's okay, because I'm worth enough to do that. And I remember my bosses saying, if you go, that's it. Like, we can't. And I was like, well, screw that then. No one tells me what to do. And, but I remember being at the top of the zip line, you had to climb up the pole, and I'm standing there on the edge, and the guy has me locked in, and he's like, go when you're ready. And I remember in that moment, in the now, was really breathing in and saying, all right, when I step off this ledge, I'm leaving fear behind. And I know that I'm supported. And I just let my arms out, and I jumped, like, just literally fell off the thing and got carried and cried the whole way down, all the way to the other end, going, okay, when you let go and surrender and fall into it, you will be supported. And, 7, 8 years later now, here I am, having a successful business. But it's that moment, like, am I afraid to run? Am I afraid to let go of the pole? Am I afraid to put it down? So what do you do in those moments when that fear comes up for you now? What are the things that you stop yourself and say, okay, what can I do to stop this from running in my head?
That is a great question. And I'm sure your listeners and most of the world want to know that answer, because everybody deals with fear. I learned years ago from Anthony Robbins that fear was an acronym: false evidence appearing real. And I had read Tony's book when I was having that track experience in high school at 19. I remember, because they were just throwing all kinds of stuff. I mean, this is all in your head, Billy. You have the ability. Your subconscious mind could go and jump 15, 16 feet if you could just get out of your way, like you did jumping off that pole. It's like there's something in you that has to change, and a new part of you has to be discovered. And for me, in my book, I teach you that the unknown is where the growth is. Most people are afraid. The unknown for you is jumping off that pole. That's fear. The unknown for me was, if I don't clear this height, or if I do leave the ground, I'm going to die. Or what if I don't win the tournament? Then I won't win a scholarship. I mean, all these scouts won't, feel like their trip was paid off. And so that unknown is where the growth is. And that's the place that I've just leaned into, dove into furiously. Just literally, you cannot do anything about fear unless you do something. So you have to go anyway. I've learned that from many great masters. Like, if you fear something, do it anyway. Like you thought it was going to kill you to jump off that you thought, okay, I'm support, I got a harness or whatever, but you still, there's something visceral in your body. It's the fight or flight mechanism in us that it thinks, oh no, we got to survive. We can't do this. It's the unknown. But when you can push yourself beyond the known into the unknown, that's where the growth is. And that's what I do in my life now. That's what I teach people in my book, in my speeches, in my online courses. It's just teaching them how to go to that unknown. But not like you were supported. You felt supported. You said, I felt supported. Well, I'm here to support you too. And how I support you going into the unknown is techniques and processes you can learn in the book to help you get into that unknown without so much effort, without so much thinking. Because the thinking mind is the traitor. I mean, when you think about a decision you want to make in your life, like that decision, your feeling is the truth and the thought is the lie. And most people use their thinking mind to make rational cognitive decisions. You think, oh, no, this is what I have to do because this is all planned out. I have a schedule and I have responsibilities. But you will never expand your awareness. You'll never go to that next level in your life or your business or in your relationship or your spirituality. There's no way you can go there unless you go to that next level, and it's an unknown. But so many people are afraid of the unknown because the known. People want certainty and they fear uncertainty. But if I could teach one thing in this brief interview that I use consistently in my day to get out of fear and to get into the unknown and out of the known, it's a really simple technique. And the cover of my book, and this is being recorded, right? So I can show you. So here's the cover of the book, The NOWist. And you'll see, if you can see that, there is a symbol. That's the NOWist symbol. And the cover of the book, it kind of looks like a cross, not a traditional cross, but there's 4 beings right there around a center of light, an explosion of light. And that is a symbol, that's a sign, because when you can imagine this is linear time or chronological time, time that we live in, past, future, chronological time. Imagine this line that intersects that chronological time in this symbol, this cross, this symbol. That's divine time. That goes straight up to God. That goes straight up to consciousness. Divine time is out of time. It's no time. So where those 2 parts meet, that center section, that's the now. That's the present moment. And it's always available to you. But how you get there when you're in fear, a mechanism is you breathe, take a meditative breath where you're completely out of time, and you connect your physiology to that unknown that is straight up, that divine consciousness. So you've, in effect, taking your linear time, you cross it with divine time by taking your physiology and your breath into that place, that subconscious place that lives out of time. And you can connect then to your feelings and your thoughts at the same time, and your awareness and your spiritual connection to that divine time in that moment. And that's when you've taken yourself out of linear time and you divinely connected yourself with your breath, with your heart, and with your intention and awareness. And that's when fear dissolves. That's when you think with your imagination about a better outcome, a better solution to your fear. And a quote from my book is, your imagination is the sharpest knife to cut fear and doubt out of your life. And that's one of the teachings of the book, which is in that moment when you're doubting, when you're fearing, you use your imagination when you have that connection, when you get out of physical time. And then when you're in peace, when you've got your consciousness and your linear time crossed in that now moment, use your imagination. And you think about a better intention, a better outcome. For instance, for me in the pole vault, if I knew what I knew now, what I knew then, but everything's perfect, right? Everything happens for a reason. There are no accidents in this divine universe. I truly believe that. My book's subtitle is Finding the Signs to Your Ultimate Desires in No Time. No time is the now. And the signs are those things that show up in your life. I call them spiritual breadcrumbs, things that show up if you pay attention to them. So what I've learned is to pay attention, to be astonished to what shows up and to share with other people. And that's what I'm about. I want to share my life's experience through this spiritual memoir, through this teaching, to how people can get out of this stressful world that we live in, which is all an illusion. I mean, stress doesn't exist, does it, Erin? I mean,
no.
It doesn't exist. And I learned this from Dr. Wayne Dyer. God bless Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's a soul brother of mine, even though he is passed on. But he says, that thoughts are things, and as you think, as you create. And his famous line is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Well, I want to carry on that baton of Dr. Wayne and just get people to think differently and change the way they look at things, so you can attract different outcomes in your life. Better things can happen in your life.
Yeah. And I love spiritual breadcrumbs because, there's things that I'm divinely aware of.
Yeah.
If you walk into a room and you see someone that has a shirt that you have, there's a reason that you're noticing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I always go and take the initiative. I'm like, oh, I really like your shirt. I have that exact one. And I start a conversation because there's a reason things are out there. And if you're noticing, there's a piece that you need to take a step in.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that's happened, I've definitely met soul families. You were on Devi's podcast. Devi is one of my soul sisters.
Loved it. Spiritual entrepreneur. Listen to that one.
spiritual entrepreneur. I met her at the Experts Academy, and her and Holly and I just hit it off. And then we all a big group of us became our soul family. And so what I say is, like, if you see someone that triggers your attention, if you see things that trigger your attention, there's a reason you're seeing it. Don't discount that. So I love that you call it little spiritual breadcrumbs, but you have to have that awareness open, because we could just blindly walk through our day and not see any of those things, right?
Most people do.
Completely.
Most people do.
They have blinders on. It's like they're the horse in the horse race, right? So they have their blinders on. They can't see anything but the goal. And if they would stop and actually open their perspective, they could see so many other things that might help them get there faster. So I would say the things that I love about what you're really talking about is really taking everything in the moment. Because if you're thinking about what's the next goal, what's the next step, where am I over here 10 years later, or you're stuck in the victim of, poor me, I had this terrible childhood, I was teased, I was told I wasn't good enough, whatever that is, if you're stuck in those two parts, you miss all of this. Because your vision, if I go back to my old vision, I'm seeing the world through, I'm not good enough. So I'm not going to see all these amazing things, right?
Right.
So I love the bringing it in to the now, so you can have the awareness to actually take steps on those. So I'm going to ask you something. What would you say to yourself 5 years ago? If you could go back, what is some advice you would say? Like we were talking about, if I knew then what I know now, right?
Yeah, right.
What would you say to yourself? What's some piece of advice you'd give yourself?
So it would be really clear, and it would be short, because I think, like I was teaching earlier, when you have a decision or a big question in life, the thinking mind is usually the lie, and the feeling body, the feeling being that you really are, that's the part of you that's real. That's the truth. So I would go back to my 5-year-old, my 5 year ago self. I wish I could go back to the 30-year ago self, which was the one standing on that track, just devastated by fear, and we'll go back 5 years, because that 5-year-old self is not that far away. But if I knew now what I knew then, my point of attraction would change. I would tell Billy of 5 years ago to pay attention to what's around you in every moment, to be astonished by what is in every moment, and then tell other people, share it. Don't be so selfish with your time. Don't be so caught up in the physical world and what you think is important to you, because what you think is not important to you. What you feel is important to you. And if you can focus on the feelings and get out of the thinking, the cogitating, the ruminating over, what I'm going to do with my life, what's this goal about? Am I going to work on this relationship? How am I going to get a better job? How am I going to make more money? What about my kids? All these things and fears that are false that we connect to they're illusions, because there is no such thing as time. Einstein said time is illusion. He's probably the most brilliant mind to walk the planet. And if he's telling us time is illusion, why is the majority of this world run by an illusion and by this clock that doesn't really exist? So the feeling part of you, that's why when I give the example of how to get out of fear and how to get in the present moment with the NOWist symbol, that divine time and your present moment awareness comes when you get out of chronological time. If I could tell myself back then how to breathe and how to use your awareness and use the feeling part of your body to get out of physical time, and to use your imagination to connect to what you really want, then by virtue of the law of attraction, which 5 years ago I knew what that was, but I didn't really know how to utilize it, how to elicit part of my body and my being that could connect to my future and connect to my present. But more importantly, my future was compelled by my present if I had less stress in my body. Because when you're peaceful, when you're connected, when you're clear, when you're totally content in the moment, and you focus on what you want, by virtue of the law of attraction, it's going to be attracted to you. That outcome is going to come to you so much faster. And all these synchronicities are going to show up in your life, and you won't be surprised, because you'll say, oh, of course, I'm in alignment with that. And alignment is one of my favorite words, because when you are in alignment with what you want, a great quote from my book, one of the ones that I love, sorry, shameless plug again for my book, is when you have everything you need, you get everything you want. So when you're content, when you're completely content in the moment, and use your imagination for something you want, you'll be tracking that in your life, and it will show up, and you won't be surprised when it shows up. And then that will stack on the next thing, and your life will just start to live itself. But it all lives through present moment awareness and that peace you have. Not the striving, not trying to arrive to some future thing that's going to satisfy you, not some egoic outcome and focus. but how can I serve, not what's in it for me? I mean, that's a lot of advice for a 5-year ago self, but I think I could handle it. I think I could take that advice and run with it. I'm running with it now. So I feel like
Yes.
that's what's important.
Well, I love that I always talk about the same chemicals are released when we're in fear and when we're excited. Our thinking mind decides what we're feeling. So we want to be in control. So we are like, okay, I have all these, adrenaline's rushing through my body. I'm shaking. I can barely breathe. What is this? And so we, in our thinking mind, create the story about what's going on for us. Mm-hmm. So people do this before they get on stage, before they, run their pole vault, right?
Yes, right.
And in that moment, you have the opportunity to tell yourself you're actually excited. So before people go on stage and I say you have nerves, is to just tell yourself, I'm so excited to share my message with the world that I'm feeling all these things, and it's the energy running through me and how exciting it is. All of a sudden, you're not focused on the fear and the anxiety and going into that, like I call it the anxiety circle of death, because you start panicking more and and then the symptoms get worse, and now you're shaking and your voice is shaking. So if you can just say, this is just energy running through me that's so excited and propelled to do my mission in the world and to speak my truth, it'll really shift it. And it's funny because I know you and I were going to go to Bo Eason at the same time, and I was bummed you weren't there because you were out,
I'm
celebrating.
I'm going in October because I live here in Santa Barbara, and Bo's 2 miles from where I live, so I can't wait to go in October.
Yeah, and I'm probably coming back, so that'll be awesome. But this is something I use. So one of my things is sometimes I use when I'm in that fear state in that moment, as I borrow confidence from my future self. And I don't know if many people will watch this. It's a random show. It's called Queen of the South. It's about drugs. It's so not like what I would normally watch. But what I remember watching was there was a moment where she was like sitting on the ground crying, kind of like your story, right? And then her future self shows up in the screenshot, and she's all dressed in white, decked out, beautiful, gold everywhere. She's the successful version of herself, right? And so when I was at Bo Eason's event, I have wanted to be the female voice on the world's greatest speaking stage.
Yes, you should be.
I know. Well, it's happening. I'm going to make that happen.
I know you will.
I saw Bo at the VIP cocktail hour, and I was like, I need to have a conversation with Bo about this. And he had said, listening to the crumbs, right? He said earlier that day that don't treat anyone that's like not your equal. Just everyone is your equal. Don't, admire people thinking that they're on a soapbox or any of that. Just speak to them like they're your equal. Mm-hmm. So I somehow borrowed that confidence from my future self, and I walked up and I said, Bo, what's this whole thing about world's greatest? I hear it might be cut down. Do you realize you need to have more room, because I am supposed to be on that stage as well. We need women to be seen up on stage confidently, doing compelling communication where it's graceful and beautiful and in the feminine energy as well as the masculine. Because a lot of us women think we got to look like those boys up there.
You're right.
And so I said, I'm your girl. I'm the person that's supposed to do that. And I don't know where that came. Like, I know where it came from.
That's the truth. That's why. It's the truth.
But you get scared to say those things out loud. I'm like, I'm commanding that from the universe. And he was like, well, let's make that happen. And I was like, okay.
Yes.
But it's that moment right before you go to that scary thing that you're about to do that feels really outside the box.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have been totally rejected. I could have been looked out. Who knows, right? What could have? We could create stories about it. Mm-hmm. But when I borrow that confidence from the woman who owns and runs a $40 million speaking agency, that woman wouldn't care. She would go up there and tell him that. So what I want to ask you is, what if you could borrow the confidence from your future self, if you could see that future self, where you're headed, your book is the New York Times bestseller, you're speaking globally to huge 10,000 room people, things that are out there, what would he tell you today?
You see, the reality is that already exists now.
You're right.
It does. It does, because I no longer set goals, and I speak to people all over the country, and I speak to professionals. I have a keynote speech called Now Become a Real Estate Agent, which is a chapter from my book, which teaches people, and a real estate agent could be anything. I am a realtor and a real estate agent currently, as this is how I monetize my mission of the NOWist currently. But, I teach agents how to get out of time and how to get out of that state that is our schedule, is the doing, is the outcome focus, which most professionals have. So when I say, hey, I don't set goals, you can see the management in the room just kind of go, oh, like a hush in the room, like, oh, he just said it. He just said the G word. Is like, no, I don't set goals, because I used to set goals. And when I would set goals, I call them my bathroom mirror goals. I put them on side my bathroom mirror. I had like 7 goals, and I would think about them. And I walk into my bathroom, brush my teeth, whatever, look at those goals. And I would make them really cool. Like I would put like my name up in lights on a marquee, because back then all I was about was getting a $3 million record deal. And that was my focus, because I was all about getting music, in the world and becoming this massive, successful, singer, songwriter, artist. And back then, the goals were all about, outcomes. Like, I had to get a $3 million record deal. I wanted to, sell 10 houses in 1 year. And it was all about these outcome-based goals. And I would look at them and I get nervous in my body, my physiology. I could feel it. I'd look at it and go, oh, man, that means I got to make this many cold calls. I got to get my demo out to this many radio stations. I got to go do this many shows, call A&R guys. And it felt stressful. And it wasn't until I ripped that thing down and I quit. I did it for 10 years. I mean, I was a slow learner, I guess. I did it for 10 years because I learned from who I love so much, Anthony Robbins. Back then, it was about a MAP, which is an acronym for Massive Action Plan. I love Tony. No disrespect to Tony. But for me, I was reverse engineering all the things he taught me, because I walked on fire with Tony in the LA Convention Center, probably 12 years ago. And it was amazing. And I learned all this stuff. But what happened was I got so focused on the outcome, and it became daunting, and I became nervous. And I would every day, talk about starting your day off wrong, I would feel overwhelmed. And it wasn't until I ripped that down and I read an amazing book by a great teacher, a mystical teacher, a spiritual teacher named Neville Goddard. And he wrote this book called The Power of Awareness. And it taught you how to think from the end instead of about the end. About the end, you look at that goal, and you think in the future, and you think, oh gosh, when I get that, I'll be happy. When I get that, I'll be fulfilled. When that happens, that means I made it. I got my $3 million record bill. There's millions of people loving me, my music, and I'm touring the world, signing autographs, and all these egoic outcome-based things, which I know the world and most people listening and hearing this probably can relate to that, because you get trapped in the outcome, folks. But when you think from the end instead of about the end, it's already here now. And then what happens, that's what I do now, is before I get out of bed every morning, before I go to sleep every night, I imagine myself. Like currently, I'm going to Italy next month. I'll giving my Now Become a Real Estate Agent keynote to some offices in Florence and Siena. And I'm really excited to be my first international big, kind of speaking tour to promote the book. And before that was set up, the gigs weren't there. So I started using, what I teach, which is, to think from the end. So I started to imagine myself before I get out of bed in this big space, with the big PowerPoint going. I'm giving my presentation, and I'm smelling. All 5 of my senses are connected. I'm smelling these rose smells in the auditorium where I'm presenting, and I'm seeing the faces. I feel the PowerPoint clicker in my hand. I'm literally tasting that excited taste you get in your mouth, when you're presenting to people. And all 5 of my senses are engaged. And so I started imagining what that felt like. And of course, by virtue of the law of attraction, by the virtue of just being connected in that, not in that outcome phase, but where it actually lives in this present moment. Of course, like if the calls, people are booking me, I'm all set. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to be. And that was because I thought from the end and not about the end. Most people go the other way. They go, I got to SWAT team this sucker. I got to go make a ton of calls. I got to go push, and come from this place of scarcity. Well, when you come from the end, when it's already done, and you connect to that with your soul, with your present moment awareness, it's already done. And by virtue of the law of attraction, by the law of love, the universe conspires and works with you without any effort. It's actionless doing.
I love that. That is so awesome. Because I feel like that's that essence of, I sometimes have to step into that it's already done. That's who you already are, and be that.
You're already on that stage with Roger and Bo.
Yeah.
And Brendan, you're already there, Aaron. I already see you there.
I already see my little director chair up there.
Yeah. And I see you on those big cool placards that they have, those big posters.
Yes.
Aaron, right there. Yeah. Bring it, dog.
I would love that. It's going to be amazing. And even if it isn't that stage, I'm going to create one like it. And I'm totally okay with that as well. Like, I just know that this wasn't what I thought I was going to grow up to be. Like you said, right? What you thought was your future. This wasn't what I thought either. And every day that I walk in faith that this is what I've been called to do. When I heard the message, get in your lane. And I'm like, get in my lane. I'm in my lane. And then I heard, no, the lane that I created for you. And I was like, oh, okay. So when you have those kind of conversations that you know are divine, you are like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I don't know why, you know, and then
Yeah.
it started to unfold. And every day I take steps and I have people reaching out and calling and all those things happen. So I love that. And I love that, you know, when you're in the beingness, not the doingness, that that's what you, when you truly manifest what you need and what you want. And that's truly how I've lived my life. That's why I'm one of the fastest manifestors.
Of course.
Because it's just getting in alignment, right?
It's already, it's already done. It's already done. The universe is going to do everything it can to make it, because the unit, remember this, Aaron, remember this, people listening and watching, the universe likes speed. You know, when I had the idea for the NOWist, sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you know, inspiration's coming to me right now. I want to give it. So when I had the inspiration, when literally God gave me this inspiration for the book, the NOWist and the teaching, I knew what it was going to be about. I knew the title. I mean, I created that word. That word doesn't exist. I created the word, the NOWist. It came through me, and all the teaching came through me. And I had 18 title chapters. I didn't go to college. You know, I don't have a degree in writing anything. I mean, literally, I'm not known as your classic, you know, PhD, studied Harvard, you know, learned person, erudite person. I literally had inspiration. I was never motivated. I was inspired to write this book. And I got up every morning at 4:30 without an alarm clock. And they say when you're inspired, you know, you're pregnant with a book, and you're pregnant with a book. And it took me 9 months, almost exactly. I had no idea what the outcome was. I didn't focus on it. I just literally got up every morning at 4:30 and I wrote for a couple hours, and I never had writer's block once. I wrote 65,000 words without an outline, just 18 title chapters, and it was done. You know, and it was about from the end. And I have this in this book that I just showed you. This is what I learned from Dr. Wayne Dyer, is when you want to manifest something, you have an image of it. So I created this cover for the book before it was even done, when I first started it. So I'm thinking from the end right here. You know, the book wasn't even done yet. When you have that tool, that helps you manifest. And like, you're a powerful manifester when you can get in alignment, like you said, you can get out of your own way and out of your thinking mind. And there's something bigger moving the pieces around. When you surrender and you align, you look out, baby, because your life is, your dream is going to come true quick.
Well, I got it, because here's my book. It's all mapped out too.
Yeah.
So my goal is by the end of the year to have that done. I set that. And so I've started that journey too.
Make a cover, put it in front of your writing space, and leave it there. And while you're working, it's already done. You're thinking from the end, as if it's already done. So there's no pressure to think, oh, what's my cover going to be? You do it first. You think from the end instead of about the end. You can use triggers and tools like this. Yeah. That's what I did. That's what Dr. Wayne did for the last 20 of his books. He'd have the marketing department create a cover. He'd set it in his writing space, and he'd just create from the end. And think about how actionless doing that is, how effortless that is. It's just being.
And he did say those are the bewitching hours that he would write. He would get up at 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning and write. And so, okay, I'm gonna commit to doing that, because I'm like, when do I fit this in? So I might just have to start that, because that.
You know what's great about that time, Aaron, is it's literally the earth is quiet. Like the energy is open. I'm a musician and songwriter, so a lot of my songs are written in that time too, where, you know, the world is quiet, and you can connect with that divine inspiration, that harmony, that music that's, you know, that's all around you, and you can align with it, and then it downloads to you, comes to you, because you're not thinking so much, you're just being.
Right. And that's the best. When I am just in beingness, I mean, that's on stages. I'm just a conduit. I just open my mouth, get up there, and sometimes I'm like, I really don't know what I'm going to say. And then I get up there, and the flow just comes, and I really, truly am channeling it. I feel the energy in the room, and I just go. And sometimes I tell a story. I'm like, why am I telling this story? But what I always know is to trust that. And I'll get off stage, and somebody will come up in tears. That's the story I needed to hear. That story changed my life. I'm like, okay, I divinely listened, and I trusted. And so that's what
because we're all one. They experience resonance with you, and we're all one. We're all one. I mean, what is NOW spelled backwards, Aaron?
One.
Right. When you're in the now, you've won. You've won your presence back. WON is also homonym for ONE, one collective consciousness, one divine mind. So that person that resonates with your story, it comes to you in tears, is literally aligned with that feeling, that emotion that you projected, because she was in alignment with and needed to hear that story. So why do you think the thinking mind, you know, if you're trying to have cards and cue cards and set up your speech, you're not doing a service to the people in that room that really need to hear your inspiration. Because when you're in alignment, that's when you give the best presentations.
Right.
That's when your talk changes lives. That's when you get the chills. And that's when they get the chills, because you have resonance. And that's what you, as a speaker, as a presenter, as an artist, that's what you always want to present, your best resonant self in the present moment whenever you're, connecting with people.
Yeah. And what I love about what Roger Love talks about is using your voice to also create resonance so that people feel your
Yes.
vibration. And so it's one of the things I teach is using your volume and projection in letting people feel the vibration of your words that are coming out. Because even right now in your speakers, you have a kind of resonance that you're feeling when both of us are speaking. And I've already had goosebumps like 5 times.
Me too.
It's not just what we're talking about. It's the truth bumps that come through as well.
And I'm in Santa Barbara and you're in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
There's no time. There's no distance. It's all an illusion. No. It's all one. It's all happening in the present moment when you align with it. And Roger, I've got Roger Love is my vocal coach. And I got a session with him in about 4 days. And I just love that guy. He has changed my life because he teaches what you're talking about. My body, being a singer and a speaker, just how to move people with that resonance, how to adjust the timbre and the presence of your voice and the emotion and the connection in your voice so you can project to more people. But it's interesting how you can move somebody's body with literally the sonic resonance of your body. But imagine being in alignment with your feelings and your emotions, and you connect with that sonic resonance, then you're changing the world, because that butterfly effect from that office or that conference, wherever you're speaking, auditorium, it goes out thousands of miles. Your words and your feelings have so much more presence than affecting the world for change.
Right. Well, I just love that. I'm so glad that you were able to come and join me today. How can people find out more about your book and buy this book, digest it, and start living in the now?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So it's www.billymandarino.com, and it's spelled kind of like the mandarin orange with an O on the end. So billymandarino.com. That's the mothership, the hub of all of my social media. I'm on. I have a YouTube channel called 1 Minute in the Now. Every day for the last year, I've been sending out a 1-minute video for 5 days a week. And I've got, a couple hundred videos now that I give people inspiration every day. So if you go on Facebook, you can find me at Be the NOWist. That's my Facebook page. I'm also, my Billy Mandarino is my personal page. But you can connect to all of my teachings and social media. I also have a 5-day challenge coming up in September called, create a magnetic vision for your life, teaching people how to manifest. And then I'm starting a membership program, a group coaching that's going to start October 1st. So if you go to billymandarino.com, that's really where you can kind of connect. Buy the book on Amazon. If you like it, please give me a review. I already got some great reviews up there. People are getting their lives changed. They're connecting into the present in a new way. My mission, Aaron, is to create a legion of Nowists. I want a planet covered in people that know how to connect the present moment when you're stuck in your day of worry and fear and minutia and outcome-based thinking. It's a hellacious claim, and I put it in my book. At 90% of my day, I live as a Nowist. 10% of the day, it hits the fan. Stuff goes sideways. But to be a Nowist, you just connect and you correct really quick. And when you can do that more consistently, you can attract more abundance in your life. And you can also share it with people. And that peace will help change the world. And that's my great mission.
I love it. Well, mine is also to help 1 million people, help millions of people shift and change the world. So I love that we connected today. Thank you so much for being here. I'll put all of his contact information in the show notes so you won't miss those. You can check them out on all platforms. And, I would just say that today, take a deep breath, get in the now, be present, and do that as a gift for others. Be present with your kids. Be present with yourself. Be present with your spouse, because you never know how life is so short. And so be in the now is one of the most important things that you can do. So thank you so much for joining us. And I will see you on episode 7.